Okay, it's 6:30. It's time to call into order the Municipal Building Authority of Murray City Council. We need approval of the minutes of November 12th, 2019.
I'll motion approval.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I am abstaining.
Yes,
since
abstaining.
Since I was not.
Okay, and I'll adjourn the meeting. That's all the business for that. And we'll start the council meeting.
Thank you.
Give me
we have to
a
vote,
few
or-
seconds.
That was just minutes.
It's like voting. Very excited about it. I just want to vote.
Poor Gio's having a heart attack.
What are these papers for?
Oh, that's fine, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, welcome to our city council meeting today on here January 7th, 2020. We appreciate everyone being here, and if we could ask if you'd put your cell phones on silent or quiet, that would be great. Thank you so much. And before we start anything, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked, Tricia asked for me, but thank you, Tricia. Michelle Rubin, if she'd do that for us and lead us out. You just come up to the mic there and ask us to stand, and we'll do it and repeat after you. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Sure. She says, I come to one meeting and you get me.
All rise, please. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and in the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. She's been a scout leader. She absolutely knew how to do that. All righty. We'd like to welcome our one of our senators, Kathleen Reeby. Welcome. Maybe we're going to hear from you. No? How do you like that?
If you want me to speak.
Hey. If you're going to say something about Dale, we'll let you. Look at him. Spit out whatever he's drinking. All right. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. And like I said, all of you here today. Thank you. We have approval of minutes, and that is for 2 meetings for December 3rd, 2019, and council meeting December 10th, 2019. Are there any questions or anything that needs to be brought up? If so, do it. If not, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the council meeting minutes December 3rd and December 10th.
I'll second.
Abstain. I'm looking at you two, ready for you to say you're abstaining, so.
We will be
abstaining.
We'll
abstaining.
be abstaining. Then I got thrown off. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Ooh, they'd like to do that, look at them. Okay, special recognition. Do we have any scouts here? I know that a lot of us have been scouts, but I mean current scouts. No, okay. Okay, then we'll move forward to our citizen comments. This is not, the public hearing will have our own comments in it, so this is just citizen comments. Anything you'd like to say, you have 3 minutes to do that, and you come up to the podium, address the council, and that will be the same thing with your public hearing. You'll address the council, and then Jan, you have the forms?
I do.
Okay, Jan has forms. If you speak for the citizen comments or the public hearing, you'll want to fill that. You can do it after, but you'll need to fill out a form. And when you come up, just state your name and your residency of where you live. And we'll go to that point right now. If anybody's here other than public hearing, you're welcome to come up. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Mayor, do you want me to read it? And then, or you want to read it? Okay, I'll read it. And then I'll turn the time over to you, Mayor, on that. Okay, first, consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Michelle Robbins to the Arts Advisory Board for a 2-year term to expire on January 15, 2022. Number 2, consider confirmation of the mayor's reappointment of Sunshine, and I'm not going to say this right, Sedeli? Great, thank you. To the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a 3-year term to expire on January 17, 2023. Number 3, consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Becky Harris to the Murray City Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board for a 3-year term beginning February 2020 to expire January 2023. Number 4, consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Lynn Anderson to the Murray City Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board for a 3-year term beginning February 2020 to expire January 2023. Finally, 5, consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Susan Hatcher to the Murray City Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board for a 3-year term beginning February 2020 to expire January 2023. And then we'll turn the time, or no, we want to go through the motion? How do we, I can't remember if we go through that. What's that? Mayor. Okay, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, it's a pleasure to present some very qualified people to serve on our boards and commissions. The first one, Michelle Robbins, who is I just lost the drama teacher. Thank you. I had some drama there at Bingham High, and Lori is okay. Michelle wasn't able to make it, but she has some connections with Lori and will be a real asset as we're moving forward with the remodel of the Murray Theater. I might note that she is being appointed to take the place of Kat Martinez, who is no longer serving on the board for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time you spent there, Kat.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I don't think Sunshine is here tonight either, but we do have the 3 new appointees to the Senior Recreation Center, and this is the funnest and best board in the entire city, Trish tells me. No, I believe that's true. So if you would please stand as I recognize you, Becky Harris and Susan Hatcher and Lynn Anderson. And so these 3 new members of our Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board, and it was a real pleasure interviewing each of them. So we appreciate your willingness to serve. Thank you. I would just ask for your approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions? I'll bring it back to the council. Any questions regarding that, or if not, we'll accept the motion.
Lynn, right? Wait, no. Okay, so there's Becky Harris, Trisha, Susan. Sorry, I forget. You were a part of the handbell choir. Yes. So, okay. I'm like, I remember your face with Victoria and them. So thank you. That was a great show. I really enjoyed it. So they put on an amazing performance for Christmas and have an amazing handbell choir at our Senior Rec Center. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anything else before we ask a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So. Oh. Okay, sorry. I move to adopt the motion to accept the appointment of, can I just say their names?
You bet.
Okay. Michelle Robbins to the Arts Advisory Board, to Sunshine Sedili to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, to Becky Harris to the Murray City Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board, to Lynn Anderson to the Murray City Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board, and to Susan Hatcher to the Murray City Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board.
Great. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're doing awesome.
I'll second.
Okay, Jennifer.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. I'm impressed, Rosalba, that you took that on. That's kind of one that I think would have thrown me for a loop, so you did great.
I wasn't ready, so.
You did great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll come to our first public hearing. Consider an ordinance relating to land use amends the general plan from low-density residential to residential neighborhood business for the property located at 551, 565, and 583 East Winchester Street, and 6363 South, 525 East, Murray City, Utah. And presenting is Melinda Greenwood, and then we possibly might hear from after Melinda, our applicant, Brad Reynolds Construction. Welcome, Melinda.
Thank you. Yes, as you mentioned, tonight we're here to discuss a general plan amendment that was submitted by the applicant, Brad Reynolds, for the property addresses at 551, 565, 583 East Winchester, and 6363 South, 525 East. The general plan addresses future land use designations. And so here is just an aerial view of the 4 properties that we're discussing. This slide shows in the yellow what the current zoning is, which is R18, or excuse me, is low density residential. And then the pink shows the residential neighborhood that we would switch the properties outlined in red to become the pink of the residential business, excuse me. So this was a process when in 2017 we updated the general plan. The direction to the consultant that was assisting us with this was to zone all of the properties along Winchester in this area to be the residential business. Because these properties are tied to the address or to the frontage of Winchester, but they're separate parcels, they were missed. So this is essentially a correction of that mistake that happened in 2017. In fact, 3 of those parcels actually share the same address as the parcels that front Winchester Street. So, again, what we're discussing is the future land use designation. If you want to go to the next slide. So we have corresponding zones for these land use designations. And in the residential business designation, we have only one zone, which would be the residential neighborhood business. In the low density residential, there's a variety of zones, and the everything from agricultural that goes in, it goes up to R210, so very low density. The next slide just shows pictures of the property as it looked back in November. So this item was heard before the Planning Commission at the November 14th meeting. There was quite a bit of public comment there, the public hearing that evening, and I would expect the same tonight. The Planning Commission did forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for approval of the general plan amendment. Staff is recommending the same. So if the applicant, if Brad Reynolds is here and wanted to say a few words, we can turn the time over to him.
Good evening. Brad Reynolds, 2500 East Haven Lane, Holiday, Utah. I appreciate the council taking time to consider our application for amending the general plan and as well as the zoning plan. As staff pointed out, if it's very small, all these parcels combined that were wanting to coincide with the general plan are 0.79 of an acre, so they're all very small as compared to the overall parcel. And so I think, much as what has been stated, it's a correction where it all should be master planned the same. We've had a lot of experience in residential building, and in this particular parcel, we're currently doing 3 different projects here in Murray that are all residential homes. We did the one just over here off the golf course here a couple of years ago where I know a lot of neighbors were concerned, and we came in and did some residential homes and tried to be conscious of the neighbors' concerns, and I think turned out a really nice product. And we'd certainly love residential products, residential homes, and we've been doing that for over 30 years. This particular parcel, we do not believe will be successful if it maintains its low-density residential zoning. And so we would hope that you would seriously consider amending the general plan, as we think it is a correction that it should be the RNB zone. Any questions for me?
As outside of residential homes, do you do any other projects?
I do. We do townhomes, we do apartments, we do lots of different things, yes.
Okay. That was my only question.
Yeah, currently here in Murray, the only thing we're doing is residential homes.
Any other questions for our applicant? No. Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank you. Okay. We'll open it for public hearing, public comment, excuse me. Same thing goes. It's 3 minutes. If you'd please state your name and your city of residence, and if you direct it to the council, we'd appreciate that. And we're not here tonight. This is a tough thing for me, maybe personally. I shouldn't speak for the other council members, but we're here to talk about the zoning and not basing our decision on, because anything can happen. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen where you talk about some project and it's not, that doesn't end up being. So it's just specifically on the zoning. So if you would stick with that, we'd appreciate it. And so same thing with form. After, you can do it after. Doesn't matter. Just do it after with Jan, a form to fill out. But if you come up, you have 3 minutes and just state your name and city of residence, and we'll listen to you. Thank you so much. So we'll open that up now.
I'm David Eckhoff. I live at 6428 Castlefield Lane here in Murray. We're essentially adjacent to all of these properties on the east side. Basically, I would say my wife and I are in favor of the residential and recognizes that twin homes are probably the best you could hope for in today's market. From what was presented before, it's not a zoning issue, it's more a conditional use or use approval. There was sketched out an outlet from this residential development on 525 East, and that puts it right into the residential neighborhood. We would prefer, in the long run, to see an outlet from this residential development onto Winchester itself. I think that would be more accommodating of the neighborhood. We are in favor of the zoning, but we do have concerns about the so-called business designation, and we would hope that the planning and zoning people would deal with that adequately so that it doesn't turn into a business environment. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. I'll just wait for others to come up.
I'm Sondra Lingle. I live at 6340 South, 440 East in Murray. Been there forever. Basically, my concern is that idea of the business in a residential area. I've noticed all along 64th that we have all the other homes turned into businesses. A lot of people are concerned about their homes that are behind those businesses. What's going to happen in the next 30 years? Will that all turn into business too and eat into the residential area? Hopefully not. I'm concerned that it's not down solid what you mean by putting business in this residential area. So that's my big concern. Another one is the entrance to this on 525. If you ever tried to get out on 64th from where I live, which is 440 East, there's not a lot of room there. And if it comes off of 525, there's going to be a bottleneck. Them getting onto 6400 South, we need a light there or something, because it's bad enough as it is. And there's a lot of children in the neighborhood too. So, and they're always going around everywhere, especially around 525. So I think that should be a concern of where that entrance and exit is. Maybe it needs to be changed to 64th. Also, through the years, there's been digging up that property, digging up other properties, and our neighborhoods have been inundated with whatever you want to call them. Gophers, pocket gophers, moles, you name it. They have been coming into our neighborhoods for years. Every time somebody does some construction where another home was or the open property, and I've got them in my yard right now, and they have literally eaten up my backyard. Everything from bulbs to roses to my clematis to my rose of Sharon. So my concern on that part is get rid of them before you start digging up the holes and sending them into our neighborhood. I'm sure the people behind the whole property there on 64th who will back this construction are going, ugh, because they're easy right there, where I'm just a few streets over. But I've been inundated, my neighbors to the south and to the north of me, across the street, and they are a bugger to get rid of. So I think you need to take that into consideration for this project. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that's it. Seeing none, then we will close that portion. I'll close the public hearing portion, but I think we'll probably want to bring it back to the council and ask some questions. Is that okay? Okay, let's have Melinda. Melinda, where are you? Melinda, you're right there. Melinda, and one of my questions is go ahead. No, you're good. Explain to us. So it comes to the council. I mean, we know it went to the planning and zoning. It comes to us, and if it does pass here, what takes place then next with the planning and zoning? Some of their concerns, questions that they're asking.
So we actually have two items on the agenda tonight. We have the general plan amendment, which is what we're discussing right now. The next item would be a rezone request. If both of those were passed, then what would happen in the future is the applicant would bring a project to the development staff and submit an application, and that project would go through the process. Is anything in RNB, is that a conditional use? Okay, so everything that, the next item is to rezone it to residential neighborhood business. If that were to happen, the project would then have another opportunity for a planning commission to have a public hearing at the planning commission meeting whenever that were to be. So there's a variety of things that could happen. Councilmember Hills was explaining earlier. At this point, we're talking about land use designations and categories and future uses. A lot of times projects will come through and they never happen. And so the land use laws in Utah, we talk about general plan amendments and rezoning, and we don't really take into consideration a project. So all of this could go through, the project could sell, or the property could sell, another property owner could come in and change it back to another zone. And so this isn't the point where we consider what projects or what impacts the projects would be. That comes at a later point in time. But at that point in time, when a project does come through, it does sent to the Planning Commission. There would be a public hearing held again. Notices would be sent out within the radius of those properties. You would all receive a notice at that time and be able to come and hear a staff presentation on the project itself. And then you would be able to give your comments and concerns based on that particular project.
And they'll vote again.
The Planning Commission, yes, would
So
vote.
the residents can come in and talk about certain things they brought up to me about 525 East,
Correct.
taking an exit out on 6400 South.
Yes.
E-
Yeah.
Even
and that's oftentimes, even though, like, we do recognize your comments and take them into consideration. And when projects come in, you know, we do kind of have that recollection of these were the concerns that were brought forward during the public hearings, and may want to address those up front with a project. We do try and work that in when the possibility is there. But yeah, at that point in time, that's where, so a conditional use permit would be considered, and it's not necessarily if we approve or disapprove that conditional use permit, it would be what conditions we apply to that approval. And that's, again, it's the way state law works with land use, but we would take into consideration the concerns that are brought forward and may make adjustments to the project. So if there was an entrance off of an area where there was concern for residents, we may say, okay, condition of that approval would be that the ingress egress has to be off of Winchester Street and not the residential area.
What and I'm sure we have other questions, but what about a question, or what about someone stated, and I think that's a question for a lot of people here, about making sure it doesn't turn into business, that it's used for, is that something also that can be brought up at the planning and zoning?
So that
I'm not aware of that, so. It's what? That's what I'm saying. But what I'm asking.
It would be the time to address those concerns would be now. So
Okay.
where we take into consideration,
That's
again,
right.
that future land use, which we're looking at right now, it's designated residential on those 4 parcels, which are landlocked, which are tied to those addresses that front Winchester. So do we change those 4 parcels to be the same designation as those that they're kind of married to? And then the next agenda item where we talk about the zone map amendment would be, we'll get into a little bit more detail as to what uses are allowed in residential neighborhood business and the R18 that is zoned right now.
Could we kind of go over some, as an example, what are some of those uses?
Sure.
Good question.
We'll move a few slides forward. So, the low density single family that it's zoned right now is R18, and those that zone allows for residential single family lots, and typically the smallest size lot you would get in that zone would be 8,000 square feet. And in the residential neighborhood business, there's permitted uses, single family dwellings that are detached, which is the same as in the residential. There's also let me just flip to my slide here. So in the residential neighborhood, we also have, it was mentioned earlier, townhomes or kind of twin homes, light commercial. So there could be the possibility of an attorney's office, a doctor's office, like an optometrist, architects. We consider these kind of light uses, light office uses that don't typically impact anything after 5 or 6 p.m. So it has less of an impact to the neighboring residential houses that are there. And then there's conditional uses that are also allowed, things like bookstores, banks, antique shops, or even like a charter school could go in.
Thank you. Other questions for Melinda from the council?
No.
No. Dale?
Yeah, Melinda, can you tell me what the area is that you will notify?
Say that again, sorry.
The area that you will notify of the next,
Oh, it would be
RDA?
the same as today, right? We notify, 300. So we would take the combination of all the properties that would be impacted by the project, and we would go 300 feet out from that and do a 300-foot radius for notification.
What is it for this requirement for this meeting?
500.
What's the difference? Layman question. What's the difference from going from 500 to why 300 not staying at 500? I know that's probably in the code, but as someone like me, I'm sure this is a question they're wanting to ask.
Is it Ludma or is it ours? Okay, so we have it codified differently than the state does. So in the history of Murray, whenever they put that into place, they decided that a zone, a general plan amendment or a rezone should have a wider or a broader notification area of 500 feet. And my guess would be the rationale was that on like conditional use permits, the project or the impact would be more direct and those further out would be less impacted. That would be my guess.
You
have a phone a friend, my expert planner.
Want your phone a friend to come up?
Yes, this is
Okay.
Zach Smallwood. He's the planner, one of our fabulous planners, so he can give a little bit more insight on that.
Okay, thanks, Melinda.
Thanks, Council. I apologize. I'm just kind of sitting there off to the side trying to help out where I can. So just a quick couple things. From what I understand, and GL, please correct me if I'm wrong, but LUDMA just says that you have to, you just have to notify.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, LUDMA, that's the land use, it's the state's land use code, pretty much. And they spell out that you have to notify affected property owners. They don't necessarily spell out distances. That's been left up to the municipalities to do. Typically, rezones are 500 feet and conditional uses are 300 feet. The reason for that being is, say like we're doing a conditional use in a commercial zone, for example, we're putting in, I don't know, a bookstore. I don't even know if that's conditional. We're putting in a bookstore in a commercial property. It's not going to have the same effect as a rezone would necessarily have to the neighboring property owners. So it would be a little bit less, and therefore that's kind of the long and small of it, I guess.
For this project, it was 300 feet?
For these general plan and zone map amendments, they are 500
Okay,
feet.
sorry.
So if another project were to come through, because the anything in this potential zone is required to go through another public hearing, whether it's a subdivision, whether it's another building, what have you, that would be required to come back before the Planning Commission, and typically is about a 300-foot notice.
Want to have something? No? This is just all,
Please.
Sorry, questions for you, but
Please.
Could the Planning Commission say we're going to ask for a conditional, not use, but conditions on this to be 500 so they could get more notices to some of these people for that?
That's a little more complicated. I don't.
Something that a code would have to probably change.
It would probably have to be codified differently. That's something we could definitely take under advisement
All right.
and take a look at.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for?
The only thing I'd say is if this passes tonight and it goes back to the zoning commission and the letters are sent out, make sure neighbors talk to neighbors, because everybody needs to be involved in the process.
Thank you.
I also,
Okay.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff, please,
Sorry, Brad.
Rosalba, please.
I also wanted to let the neighbors know as well. We have a list of our codes online as well, so you can go and search. Is it just code? Right. Yes. Sorry. But But I'm talking about the actual list of uses. It is on our website, so if you want to go ahead and take a look, there is a list on there, and it's open to the public for your information as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be found under the city's municipal code, and chapter 17 is the land use code for the city.
Okay. You good, Jill? I can tell when the attorney wants to say something. Nope, you're good. Okay. All right. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Any questions? Do we have the applicant? Come back up. Okay. Yeah, I did close that. Okay, let's entertain a motion.
I'll move. I move we move forward with the amendment to the general plan from low-density residential to residential neighborhood business for the property located at 551, 565, and 583 East Winchester Street and 6363 South, 525 East, Murray City, Utah.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. Jennifer?
And I just want to say that I'm voting aye because after studying the property and the different uses of it and where we are in the process, that I think it's the right thing to do to make the zoning of the parcel consistent. But thank you very much for commenting. I hope you keep commenting as the process keeps going on.
Aye.
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 Aye. It's the lowest I've ever spoken. Okay. We'll go on to our second, which is part of this. Consider an ordinance relating to the land use amends the zoning map for the property located at 533, 551, 565, 583, and 631 East Winchester Street, and 6363 South, 525 East from R18 Low Density Residential Zoning District to the R&B Residential Neighborhood Business Zoning District. Melinda Greenwood presenting again. Thank you, Melinda.
Thanks. So this is the next step of the process. The council just chose to change the future land use category for those 4 parcels to residential neighborhood. So the applicant also submitted at the same time an application to rezone those properties if the general plan amendment had passed to the residential neighborhood business. So that now incorporates all of those properties, that front, Winchester, and so is there 9 parcels there? 10. Let's see. So the rezone request then is to take all of those from those that were R18 to put them into the residential neighborhood business. So this just shows those 4 properties that were kind of left over that weren't changed, and gives a better depiction actually of the mistake that was made with the general plan amendment and just kind of an oversight of not realizing those parcels were tied to the frontage of the parcels on Winchester. So we already went over the next slide just a little bit, but this would be essentially requesting permission to change from the low density, from the R18 zone, which allows single family, to the residential neighborhood business. And there's a variety of uses that could be permitted there: single family dwellings that are detached, residential facilities for those with disabilities. We have like duplexes, again, light office uses, and then there's some conditional uses that could also be approved, such as bookstores or banks. There are, within the land use code for residential neighborhood business, we do have the opportunity to provide operating hour restrictions too, because we are mindful that this does often back up to residential neighborhoods. So we do have some ability there as a project were to come forward in the future to further mitigate impacts. So this item again was heard at the November 14th Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission held a public hearing that night. There was public comments that were made that evening as well. The Planning Commission has chosen to forward a positive recommendation for the zone map amendment to the City Council, and staff is recommending the same as well.
Thank you, Melinda. Okay, I don't know if Mr. Reynolds, you want to come back up, or, yeah, come on up. You bet.
Brad Reynolds, 2500 East Haven Lane again. I'll be very brief, and I don't want to be repetitive. I just would like to say that with the general map, there's a reason why they looked at that and changed that to the RNB. And I, having over 30 years building experience, in order for that parcel of ground to be successful, when you look at the residential neighborhood there to the north, but then look at the high traffic on Winchester, along with the commercial and the high residential multifamily across the way, in our opinion, the only way this will be a successful project is if you do change the zoning, where we have a transition from the R18 to something that's a little more flexible to meet the surrounding area there, as well as the busy street that's on Winchester. And so we're hoping that you will go ahead and vote to change that, because we feel that's the only way this will be a successful project. And certainly with this zoning, there are height restrictions. There's different things that I think will actually help accommodate the neighbors' concerns a little bit more as well. And with the cost of ground and the cost of building, it certainly will be prohibitive to do anything that's not of a very high quality in nature. It will certainly be a very high quality project. Any questions for me?
Yes. Thank you, Brett, for looking at me. With your projects that you have done in the past, is there any traffic studies that you have done along with them? I mean, I know there's there's a lot of traffic on Winchester, and it seems like our residents have a lot of concerns about how that would impact them.
Sure. And we're certainly conscious of that, and we would look at that as we finalize our site plan and try to figure out the traffic that's involved. Preliminary studies that we've shown with Winchester being as big a highway as it is, we do not see any potential concerns with that, but we'd certainly look at that a little bit more and address that as we're doing our site plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Reynolds? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Melinda, do you want to?
If I can just follow up on
Yeah,
that.
please.
So it is the discretion of the city engineer to require a traffic study.
Okay.
And typically that is a requirement that would come at a later stage when a project would come through.
Okay.
But that's something that really is, by
That we
code,
do.
it's the discretion of the city engineer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do the same thing. We'll open it up for public comments. Just same thing, 3 minutes if you have a desire to come back up and state your name and city of residence and fill out a form.
Don Lou Argyle, 332 East, 6280 South in Murray. I just can't believe that you folks are thinking about putting businesses right along that residential area. What's the matter with you? We've lived in Murray, we love it, and every place you go is turning to a business. What do you want us to do? The mall's there, we put up with that. You can't, as we said, you cannot get on Winchester. We always have to go to the light. You can't ever get onto it from another residential street. Are you serious about a business? Doesn't matter what kind of a business. We want homes. We want homes so more people can move in and love this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Name's Christy Young, 579 East, 6295 South. I've worked in building for 20 years, and I've actually worked for competitors of Mr. Reynolds. So I understand where he's coming from, but I also have concern about the commercial. With transitioning to either townhomes or commercial, I feel like that's too broad of a scope. And I'd like to know what the total land size is and what the density of whatever he's proposing to put in there. Because going to just a blatant residential or a commercial versus a residential, I feel like that's too open scope. And I understand why all these people are frustrated, because they don't understand what's going to go behind them. They don't even have any clue right now. I know that there's been some talk about townhomes. If they had an idea of what the space is and the number of homes in the area, so that they could get a grip on, you know, hey, there's going to be 11 homes here, 12 homes here, and there will be 12 more cars. You know, that's scary, because they don't know what to expect and what they have planned right now. So,
Thank you, Christy.
Kate Sturgeon, 569 East, 6295 South. We currently have a brand new, beautiful, high, what did he call it? High value attorney's office at the corner of 725 and Winchester. And that has been a nightmare. Cars come flying out of that business onto 725 into the residential area. We're being asked, well, you're being asked to approve a pick and a poke. We have no idea what this is going to be. You're telling us, oh, it's going to be a business, it's going to be a high-end business, it's going to be lovely. We have one of those, and it's deadly. We're going to have an accident. That is a really bad intersection anyway, because ask the Squires how many cars have come through their fence at that intersection. Okay, that's up the street from where you're going to do this. But this is blind. And I don't have a lot of faith in the decisions that have gone before that you all are now tasked with doing. I hope you can do it better, but I don't want to see a repeat of what has happened with this other very high-end building business that you all approved and put in, and now we're living with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Kate, you said that's the Squires. We never had to ask her. She tells us so. No, I know. I'm just having fun. Kate, or Pam has never been afraid to call us. Surprise. Kathleen.
Kathleen Stanford. I live on Vine Street. So I'm really excited about the new city council, because I'm just hoping that we don't all vote unanimously anymore, because a unanimous council shows me that people really aren't listening to the citizens, and I would really like, you know, some more give and take and listening to the citizens. So I got scared, because I have been to so many city councils where the city council all votes unanimously, and that is scary to me, because it feels like there's some kind of a pressure to all vote the same and maybe not listen to the cities, because I think it is great. And I really appreciated what Kat said, because, you know, if people come and complain about things, you want to listen to them and you want them to come back. You want citizens to come here and come back and express their concerns. And if they don't feel like they're being listened to. So that was really a great thing to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. And just so you know, I've been on about 8 years, and I think there's been at least 5 or 6 times we voted. Not everyone was the same. So we've had, as of late, right? If you came to a meeting last month, you'll see that Diane didn't vote the same way we did. So I don't think we do that all the time. But okay, so we'll continue. Anybody else want to come up? Welcome, Janice.
Okay, introduce me. Janice Strobel, and I live in Murray. I agree with that. This really creates a vague interpretation of what can be going on here in that area that is so close to the residential neighborhood. And I also want to say, Kat, I really appreciate you explaining why you voted aye, and I really, really like that. It is very hard when citizens say things and then we only get an aye or a nay without any indication as to why. After all of what's been said by citizens, there was nothing acknowledged about what citizens are bringing up. So I really think that that is a very valid point and really helps citizens to feel that their voice is at least listened to and considered, and then looked into in determining why you're voting the way that you do vote, because you are representing us. And with this, I also think that this residential new business, and I recognize that we just did it with the general map, and it wasn't until after the vote had happened on the general plan that I saw the difference between the single family, the R18, which is one of the single family residentials, and the new business residential. And so what I understand is with single family residential, it's only detached single families in R18s. Or anyway, there's more than was just R18s. But in the residential new business, duplex is an automatic in there. But then also, in addition to that, which needs to be its own designation when you allow like twin homes or duplexes like that. But you also added on into that same zoning or general use, whatever. Okay, that also got added into that is the supposedly light commercial, and then the conditionals that seem a little more than just light commercial. So, and you know what? Here, if everyone's concerned about these 4 lots that are being changed, when all of that pink that is before this time, all of that pink has not been developed yet. And it was brought up what's happened with the one high-end commercial that did get developed. All of that still needs to get developed, and what's that going to do? So there's a lot of changes that can happen that's already been approved. And now going ahead and approving this because a developer is ready to do something with this plot of land, but none of the others been developed yet. I just think that that's kind of scary as to what can happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Janice. Come on. You want me to come up? No. No? Okay. Anybody else? Oh, well, look at this. Doesn't he work for the city? Welcome, Doug.
May I? Am I allowed to?
You certainly are.
Just a little history. Doug Hill. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the city. I've worked for the city now for almost 30 years. And I'd like to just give a little history on this, not necessarily to persuade you as a council to vote one way or another, but I think it's important, especially for our new council members, to understand how we came about with a RMB zone, a residential neighborhood business zone. So if you go back 15 years or so ago, we had a real problem in the city with properties along 900 East and Winchester. And it's because they were all zone residential at the time. And nobody wanted, as we heard from Mr. Reynolds, nobody wanted to live in a single family home that was on 9th East and Winchester Street because of the amount of traffic that it was carrying. And yet several people at the time kept approaching the city and wanted to zone the property commercial or office or some other kind of a use. And the city council did not want to change the zone for those properties on 9th East and Winchester Street to an office or commercial use because they felt it would negatively impact the residential homes behind them. So we worked, and I was a member of the staff at the time. We worked, did a lot of research around the country to try to find out what is the best zone between a heavily used street and a residential neighborhood. And that was what we presented to the city council at the time was that is this residential neighborhood business zone, which it maybe is not perfect, but is intended to create a buffer, if you will, between a high traffic area and a residential area. And so that was the reason for the general plan, and it's been that way ever since, recommending that these areas along Winchester and 9th East become a residential neighborhood business, and that was what you just approved because that was the purpose. It was to create a buffer. And it was primarily intended to eliminate vacant, deteriorating homes or structures that were occurring along those streets.
Thank you, Doug. And we'll ask Doug questions after because I'm going to treat you as a suspect. Who said suspect? As a citizen. And so, because I think we're going to have some questions for Doug. So we'll do those after we have the residents continue up. But that was the best thing I've ever seen happen to Doug. A 30-second thing was shown for you to be quiet. How do you like that? I've never seen that before. And you don't even talk much. So welcome, Keith.
Keith Bateman, 569 East, 6295 South. A lot of people aren't going to like what I'm going to say, but I actually like what's happened on 9th East. I think those, a lot of them are medical offices up there. I think they're a great buffer, as opposed to having a strip mall or something like that. The problem with the law office on Winchester and 725 is that you did approve, or somebody approved, that access onto 725, which really, like Kate said, creates a lot of problems. And hopefully with this project on Winchester, and I noticed that I'm guessing the people that owned that property bought that last little house there so they could do what they just did to create a bigger piece of property there, and also to give them access to that 525 East. And I think it would be a huge mistake to ever approve whatever is built there, whether it's commercial, residential, or whatever, to allow access or egress from that property onto that neighborhood street there. I think the access, the egress has to be onto Winchester, which means they're probably going to have to build some kind of a recessed turn lanes and things like that to accomplish that. But I like the medical offices. I think they're great. There's nobody there on the weekends, and a lot of them are very well done. They're beautiful, so I like that.
Thank you, Keith. That's right. Anyone else? Come on. Welcome, Dwight.
I'm Dwight Searle. I live at 658 East Silver Shadow, just a stone's throw from where this property is. And I like the idea of residential areas. What seems to be lacking to me is there's not a zoning for what they're asking to be done. It seems like it's too open-ended. I second everything that everybody said here about that. And until you make a decision, there should be some kind of a zoning that could be used to, just for duplexes maybe, or something like that. And the other concern I have is whenever I think of duplexes, I think of landlords and rentals. So that's another concern. And I would hope you take into consideration my property value and the traffic that will be impacted with any kind of business that's put there. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. Any others? Okay. No others? Okay, we'll close that part of the public hearing. And then we'll bring it back. Melinda, go ahead.
If there's anything that the council would like us to follow up on from the public comments.
Rosalba, you had something for Doug, I think, or for Melinda?
Either one. How long has this property been vacant? I remember seeing a few houses there, but it was years ago.
Long time?
They've been vacant? Oh, gosh, probably about 10 12 years.
Because there was one house there, or
yeah, that's
right.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I remember. And lastly, I do want to say, before we continue on, you know, as a council, we do receive quite a bit of information. We receive your public comments that you have given prior to coming here with the Planning Commission. And we take everything into consideration. And we also understand that it is very broad in terms of the classification that could be used in this specific zone. And, you know, and that's why I say, please go online, look it up, and get some more information. I'm sure Brent would love to talk to you a little bit more about exactly what can or can't go in. And you know, we live in these neighborhoods as well, so we really take in consideration what is coming forth before us and how we do vote. And your voice is very valid to us.
Thank you.
Also, to make sure that you go to the planning and zoning meetings when we're in that part of the process, and that can be really helpful, and your voice is heard. So, anyway, thanks.
Anybody else?
I don't know when the planning and zoning meetings are.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you will talk to Jan after and get her on a list, you're going to get notification anyway, but she'll make sure by you coming in. Let me ask a question that Dwight and I think others kind of said it also. When they decided, and Doug might have to answer this because Doug was involved. Doug, come up. All I says, but it's about the question about R&B and mixing it. I know you talked about it, but I'm not sure if you said this. It went over my head. But you mixed in R&B, you got residential, neighborhood, business. So obviously the concern is, and because you know, like I said, we're talking about rezoning, but it plays in our head a little bit about what they're saying about buildings and instead of just residential. Was there ever anything talked about of separating those and having something for residential, and different classifications, like splitting that up? Was that not a possibility, and why, if it's not a possibility?
Well, I think we looked at a lot of different alternatives, and cities across the United States treat these kind of delicate areas, if you will, controversial areas differently. Like I say, the RMB, the language in the RMB zone may not be perfect in every situation, and that may not be perfect in this situation, right? It's a deep property, whereas most other places where we've had RMB zones are not as deep as this particular property. Usually you can only maybe put one building or something on the street. But I think to your question is did we study other solutions? And the answer is yes. I think we looked at as many alternatives. Again, this is 15 years ago. It was the best solution I think that we found at the time, and that the city council felt comfortable with at the time as well. The alternative is that. So I think this is the reality of it: is if you don't change the zone and you leave it as R18 as it is right now, there is a risk, and I think it's a real risk, as represented by Mr. Reynolds, that this property will never develop because people don't want to build a single family home on Winchester Street. That would be the risk. Now, I could be wrong. Somebody may want to, it may become such in the future that housing becomes so valuable that people will want to live anywhere. I've seen residential homes against the tracks lines and next to the freeways, and it may be that people would live on Winchester Street. I don't know, but that has been the problem in the past, is that we've experienced is that people don't want to do that. And so it may be that if you don't change the zone, that this property could stay vacant, which maybe that would be what the residents would rather live next to a vacant property rather than having a business located next to them.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Any other questions for Doug or Melinda? And I'm going to invite Mr. Reynolds to come up one more time, but
I did just want to let the audience know, if you want to know the specifics about the residential neighborhood business zoning, it's the municipal code, which you can find through our website, and it's Chapter 17, Section 140. That'll give you all the specifics of exactly what uses are allowed. And what was that? Oh, yeah, and you always can call us.
Great. Thank you, Melinda. Any other questions from Melinda right now? Come on up, Mr. Reynolds. I'll let you one more time just address concerns maybe that they have.
A couple of things. I know one of the last neighbor comments was, well, if they did do twin homes, are they going to be rental units? And we'd have to deal with some of those issues. Let me just assure from all of the neighbors here, from a developer standpoint, there's no way you could get the economics to work renting out townhomes with the cost of that ground and the cost of what it takes to build units. There's no way that financially it would work to have rental units in that area with just a duplex. They'd have to be high multifamily to get the numbers to work. So no developer, I think, could ever do that and make it work. We for sure couldn't do it. Nor is that our plan at all, to come in there and do duplex rental units. And the one thing is, if you did twin homes, you have basically your setbacks are the same as an R110 zone. So you got to go either 8 and 12 for side yards. You got to keep your minimum 25 feet front and back. So there's a lot of limitations that really protect the neighbors in that zone.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Reynolds? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll bring it back to the council, and before we do a motion, let's see if any discussions.
I'd just like to talk to the neighbors here. This is just about zoning, and there's certain things we can do and can't do in this particular meeting, but if it passes, there's going to be other opportunities. We don't know what the plot map is. We can't do anything like that until the zones are worked for the particular area. So I know it's frustrating for you not knowing what'll go there. It's frustrating for us too. But there will be other opportunities, and that's what I said earlier. Make sure if you get a notification, talk to your neighbors. Make sure your neighbors know, because in the couple of years I've been here, there's been a lot of times that people come to the council meeting and they're upset because they didn't get notification and they were outside the zone that we notify for. And I've always said, make sure people know, talk to your neighbors, make sure people know about the planning and zoning, because that's where this all takes place. And then it comes to us. So as far as knowing what'll go there, there's certain limitations that we all know can't go there, but none of us know what will go there yet. And that'll be the next step. And that'll be the opportunity for you to go to planning and zoning and your neighbors to go to planning and zoning. And like Rosabella said, we get all the notes and we get all the comments from planning and zoning. So we have an idea of how you feel about that as well before we take it on in the next step.
Any other statements? Mayor, please.
Yeah, let me just add to that too, if I could, for the benefit of the audience. You can go onto the Murray website and sign up for notifications of all the Planning Commission meetings, and you'll get an email when the agenda comes out. So you'll know ahead of time by email. It's very easy to do. And our staff or the CED staff are happy to help someone if they're having a hard time finding that.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll...
Are you ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. I will move to adopt the ordinance relating to land use. It amends the zoning map for the property located at 533, 551, 565, 583, and 631 East Winchester Street, and 6363 South, 525 East from R18, which is low-density residential zoning district, to RN8, which is residential neighborhood business zoning district.
Councilmember Turner, you have in front of you the monitor. There's a 593 there as well.
Oh. Okay, then 593. All right, that's my motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Jennifer.
Before my vote, I just want to say again, thank you for your comments, and I hope that doesn't sound performative after hearing it's appreciated. I really mean it sincerely. When I walked around meeting residents, knocking on doors, I heard a lot, we need more housing, and I want to live in Murray, but I can't move out of my mom's basement and live in Murray because there's no housing. And so I really think, and I also live in a buffer area in my neighborhood, so I feel like I understand a little bit about that, but because we do have a housing shortage, and I think the buffer is important with the parcel consistency, my vote is aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is consider an ordinance vacating a right-of-way located at approximately 4850 South Box Elder Street, Murray City, Salt Lake County, State of Utah. Danny Astle presenting.
Okay, so what you have before you, I just decided to show the picture, the graphic, because it makes more sense to you. So, just again, just a little history on this. As you can see from the picture, you can see the current outline of the new fire station that's being built on the corner of Box Elder and 4800 South. The historic right-of-way is actually they have built that over this historic right-of-way, and as part of the MCCD requirements, and we've gone through this and recognized that yeah, this is a problem, and so we're going back and fixing this before we plat this. So just so that you know what happens at this from here, what we're required to do is bring this to you to vacate this. They'll continue their construction. It's almost completed actually, and put the sidewalk in as designated by the MCCD requirements. And then once that is done, then we'll get a chance to replat this, and that right-of-way will be redone properly. So that's what we're bringing for you today.
Thank you, Danny. Any questions for Danny on this? Even though we just talked about it in committee of the whole, but
You answered all my questions then,
Okay.
so
Okay.
thank you.
Any others? Okay, thanks.
thanks, Danny. Okay, we'll accept a motion.
I'll move to adopt an ordinance.
Oh, gosh, yeah, hello. I can't believe I've done that. This is a public hearing. Anybody would like to come up and talk about this? About this tiny parcel that we're, look at Dale. Anybody want to come up? Keith? Okay. Look at him, he started to get up. Oh, okay. See, I knew no one's going to get up, but okay, I'm kidding on that part. I didn't know. Oh, gee, smarty. Okay, we will close that part of the thank you hearing. When whoever said that to me, I thought, what are you talking about? Okay, now we will accept the motion. It really has.
Now I will move to adopt The ordinance vacating a right-of-way located at approximately 4850 South Box Elder Street, Murray City, Salt Lake County, State of Utah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been motioned and seconded. Please call the roll.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay, now we just go on to our new business items. And this is the elections of Murray City Council Chair and Vice Chair for the calendar year 2020. And I'm doing that. All right, here we go. Nominations are now in order for officers for the Murray City Council calendar year 2020, which I just said. Nominations do not require a second. Are there nominations for the office of council chair?
I would like to nominate Dale Cox.
Any other nominations? Seeing none?
You're willing to do that?
Don't ask him. I've never asked. That's the wrong thing to say to him. He takes advantage of that, so. He nominated me, so let's get him. Okay. Just what? Vote? Okay, Jennifer. I can't hear you.
Voice vote.
Voice vote.
Voice vote. My goodness. So are you doing that, or you want me to do that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dale? You say? Okay. Any opposed? See, I'm making vote. He tries to get out of it. Okay. Sorry, could not hear you over there. Apologize. Okay, next we've got I'm just looking for, I know it's council chair, but the office of council chair. Vice chair. Well, I'm trying to get rid of Dale already. Are there any nominations for the office of council vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Rosabella Dominguez.
Rosabella doesn't sit on the council.
Rosalba was sworn in earlier today, though.
Rosalba.
Rosalba.
I'd like the woman on my left to please take the...
Oh, Dale.
I will accept.
Rosalba. Oh, Dale, you make me smile. Okay.
All in favor?
Okay, so.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
My goodness, they beat me to all that. Any opposed? Janice. Okay. So you're in, Rosalba. I almost said Rosabella. You've got to quit calling her Rosabella or you're going to get me.
Okay. Practice makes perfect. We'll get it down.
That's right.
Into your
Like 2 years.
Okay, next we are for, is it finance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Budget.
Budget, thank you. So we open the nominations for our budget chair.
I would like to nominate Diane Turner.
I love how they do that. Diane, are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, Diane's done that last year and we'll be good to do that. So, any other nominations? Okay, if none, then all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Follow up to this is open nominations for budget vice chair.
I would like to nominate Kat. And I just forgot your last name.
Martinez.
Well, we are
Sorry, it's my first day.
It's been a
It's
long
fine.
day.
I will do the thing.
So you accept that? You're willing to
I
accept that?
accept.
Okay.
Thank you, Diane Turner.
Any other nominations?
Kat Martinez, I'm so sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, what do we have next, Diane?
Taxing.
Oh, that's right. So this is for the taxing entity. Just real quick, I want somebody to come up and explain a little bit, but is Melinda gone? Mayor, or who? Jail or mayor, whatever. Just explain a little bit about the taxing entity and what they do. And there's two of us, but just a little bit about how a little bit about the obligations of that. Look at the mayor. He's looking. We all know, I was on it. It's a pretty important position because you make decisions for the city with other entities like the state of Utah, the county, the school district.
When the RDA proposes a new when the redevelopment agency proposes a new RDA area, then the taxing entity committee has to meet, and this would be representatives from the city, the school district, the mosquito abatement district, the county. All the taxing entities have to meet to agree on to vote to approve an RDA. So this is to be the city's representative or the RDA's representative on that taxing entity committee.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So it's involved with the RDA. Okay.
And if there's not a new RDA, the tech
stays the same.
Will never meet.
Right. Right. Okay. Anybody? Do you want to leave with the RDA? Go ahead, Dale. What are you going to say?
Are you open for a motion or
I
a
am.
nomination?
Yes,
I
sir.
nominate Brett Hales.
He's doing that because I'm on the RDA. So I'll accept. All in favor?
Aye.
Or were there any other nominations? I rushed that through. I want to back that up. Go ahead, GL. Look at GL. I know. I'm gonna.
This needs to be done by resolution.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So
right.
as you walk through this and you get your two nominations, you'll want to approve the resolution.
Okay.
And ask
Gotcha.
staff to include the names of those in the resolution.
Okay.
We finalize that.
I'll accept that being, and mainly because I'm on the RDA. So okay. And then, well, I guess I can't say Dale. I was going to say Dale, but I think that requires someone else because I'm conducting. Is that correct? Well, someone else can do that.
Oh, to nominate.
Mhm.
Got it.
I will nominate Dale. And I
Look at
forgot your last name.
Oh, you did
She's
not.
just trying to make me feel better. It's nice.
She's teasing.
I'm kidding.
She's trying to make
Dale
me feel
Cox.
better.
Yeah, I'm going, Diane, you did not. Okay, Dale, do you accept that?
I do.
Okay, so we have myself and Dale Cox as part of the taxing committee, or entity, entity committee. And that goes through a vote? Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's right there.
Okay, does someone else need to do that? Okay, so I can do that, okay, because usually when you're saying you're conducting. Jan's saying, read what I wrote for you last week. Okay, all right. So we are to consider a resolution approving the appointment of the representatives to the Taxing Entity Committee of the Redevelopment Agency of Murray City, and that is Brett Hales and Dale Cox. Do we need a...
I will move to adopt the resolution approving the appointment of representatives, which will be Brett Hales and Dale Cox,
Do we have a second?
to, wait, I'm not done, to the
Okay.
Taxing Entity Committee for the Redevelopment Agency of Murray City.
Thank you, Diane.
Second.
Thank you, Kat Martinez. Okay, we will now go for a roll call. Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. My goodness, we don't do these very often, this part. Sorry. It's like doing an IRA at the credit union. I can never remember how to do it. Okay. So, we are now... Are we finished? Can't even find my thing. Okay, here we go. Goes right there, right? Now we'll consider resolution approving the mayor's appointment of representatives to boards of interlocal entities. Doug Hill presenting. Welcome, Doug, again.
Thank you. Over its 100-plus year history, Murray City has worked with other governmental entities to provide services to its citizens. We have entered into interlocal agreements with these entities, and we are required to appoint individuals, either elected officials or staff, to serve as representatives to the city on these boards. And so the resolution that is before you tonight does that. The mayor has made recommendations to the city council, and then you as the city council would approve the mayor's recommendations. I won't go through and list all of the names of the individuals. You've got that list in front of you, and we reviewed it earlier. But I think it might be important just to go through those entities for the record as to those that we work with. So the first one is the Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems, the Central Valley Water Reclamation Facility, which is a sewer treatment facility, Salt Lake Valley Emergency Communication Center, which is the 911 Dispatch Center, Transjordan Cities, which is the landfill, Utah Telecommunication Open Infrastructure Agency, or Utopia as it's known, which is a telecommunication entity. Another name or another organization that's associated with Utopia is the Utah Infrastructure Agency, or UIA. The Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, which provides garbage services to the east side of the city. The Intermountain Power Agency, which is a power plant in Delta, Utah, that Murray is a part owner of. The Metro Fire Agency, NeighborWorks Salt Lake, which you heard from earlier, is a low-income housing authority, and the Community Action Program, which provides services to low to moderate income individuals and families. And lastly, the Jordan River Commission, which is self-explanatory.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Any questions for Doug?
Just before we take a vote, I do just want to reconsider for the positions that are to be held by an elected official to maybe consider in place of a staff member along with the mayor as a second to have a city council representative or an elected official be a part of that board. That is my comment to that.
Okay. Okay, so if that were to take place, then we'd need to...
We would, I guess we can hold the vote on those two positions, which would be the Central Valley Water Reclamation and the Jordan River Commission.
Remind me who, I know we talked about it, but remind me, Doug, who are the two people that are the mayor, remind us who represents those.
For Central Valley, the mayor is recommending that he serve as the city representative and that Danny Astle, our Public Works Director, as the alternate representative. And for the Jordan River Commission, the mayor would serve as the city representative on the Jordan River Commission, and Kim Sorensen is the alternate.
And I know the mayor brought up that he, go ahead, Mayor, if you want to talk about that at all, but I know you talked about expertise or something. But
Yeah, I would ask that you consider approving the nominations that we've submitted. We'll take into account in the future possible other choices.
Okay. Okay, so you've heard Rosalba's proposal, and so if you make a motion and you want to go with that, then you need to involve that, put that in there. If not, just go along with it.
Could I also just say these are appointments by the mayor. It's an administrative function. So if you disagree with an appointment, you could vote against it, but
right.
But you can't put
You can't
yourself
decide.
on one of
Sure.
these boards.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. Look at that, Elise.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution approving the mayor's appointment to representatives to boards and interlocal entities.
Do we have a? Oh,
I'll
go ahead,
second.
sorry. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jennifer, roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay, thanks for your comments, Rosalba, on that. Okay, now we are to the mayor's report. You have about 12 seconds? I'm just kidding you.
I'll do it in 11. No.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just a couple of things real briefly tonight. I just want to remind the citizens that we do have a couple of Christmas tree drop-off places available. One at Grant Park, which is next to the Senior Rec Center on 6150 South, and at Murray Park near the park office. Now, for those that are in the Wasatch Front area, I believe they're doing curbside pickup as long as the tree is clean of any tinsel or anything like that, that they'll pick them up from the curbside if you put them out the day after trash day. So, so just wanted to make them aware of that. Also, you received information in your council communications that our bond rating had been delayed till the 7th, which is today. And we received a notification today that they're still working on it. It'll probably be a day or two before it will be public. So we'll let you know as soon as we know what the bond rating for City Hall is. So just wanted to let you know that the 7th will come and go, but we are expecting that soon. And then just finally, I know that we've said a lot of congratulations today to Brad. I can tell you're new, but these two have done a great job tonight. Just welcome to the council. Welcome to this great opportunity for service. So I appreciate your willingness to serve. With that, I'll take any questions.
The tree service, how long?
Oh,
until
thank
it
you.
ends?
Through January.
Through January.
Yeah.
So I could leave my tree out the day after. Get it.
Day after.
Oh, sorry.
You'll have to take yours to the park.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure. I'm like, that's why I'm asking. Okay,
yours
yeah.
up
We
to
usually take
Diane's.
ours to the park. I'll take it
If you live
to
east of-
Dan
east of-
Cox's house.
Dan Cox, yeah.
All right, Denny.
Well, she paid him back.
If you live east of 9th East in the Wasatch Front collection area, then you can put it on the curb. Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, this is probably, you're probably not going to guess this, but I'm still going to ask it. You think there's any reason that we won't be an A+ bond? I know you don't know. I'm just, yeah, okay.
I can't answer that.
I just, yeah, just curious to know why they're taking it. It's interesting because I kind of thought we were under an A+ bond, huh? But anyway, okay, well, we'll wait and see.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll find out in 2, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever. Okay, thanks, Mayor. Any other questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone that's attended today, and this meeting is adjourned.